Nathalie Simper, and this is The Limitless Musician, a podcast by KE Creative. Our team helps modern musicians find modern solutions to building a sustainable music career. Along with my co-host, Dr. Katherine and Emeneth, we will help you learn what it takes to build a career that enhances your life instead of restricting it by becoming the limitless musician you are meant to be. Okay, well, it's good to be here. How are you doing, Katherine?
I'm doing so good. We start the Nutcracker run tonight. Woo!
Yay! I have been looking forward to my one gig that I have this year, and like just seeing everybody and playing some really good music. And I don't know, I have a good feeling about this year. It's always really fun, but I'm just like extra excited for some reason this year.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's always fun to, I think seeing your friends you haven't seen in a long time at the same gig every year is the best part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's always great when you meet up with them and it feels like no time has passed.
Yeah.
Or you're like, oh, wow. Like we've all like lived a year separate from each other. And yet like, it feels like we can just pick up from where we were the last time we saw each other, which is awesome.
Yes, it is. It's always great.
So this episode is releasing around, I think it's going to release on Christmas Eve day. Ooh. So I thought, what better way to end the first year of the Limitless Musician podcast and also the end of season 2 with kind of like a feel good episode. Like we've been sharing lots of knowledge and taking a lot of feedback from listeners like you. But, we want to take a moment to also acknowledge, like in a year where there have been a lot of ups and downs. And I don't know about you, but for me personally, it feels like there have been like way more downs than ups.
Yeah.
So having an episode just dedicated to positivity and like good things that are actually happening in the classical music industry, I think that's like the perfect way to end 2025 and also season 2.
Oh, I agree. I think it's a great idea. And congrats on the first year of the podcast. It has been an amazing journey. And we'll get into that later.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I'm really excited. And, especially as musicians, it can be really easy to just focus on the things that we're critical of or the negativity that comes in our industry. There are a lot of struggles and barriers that exist for musicians in trying to build a sustainable music career and also finding your own path on what that looks like because it's different for everyone else. So I really thought, I've just been kind of down in the dumps and with, so much added uncertainty in the arts, but also in classical music this year as a whole industry. I thought it would be great to focus on the fact that just because those are the things that we hear more about doesn't mean that there aren't really great things and big steps moving forward to try to help and support musicians to create the career that they want.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's easy to focus on the things that are not going well, but it's important to acknowledge the things that are going well, and especially for the people who are fighting the good fight.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we're going to share today some highlights throughout the year 2025 of things in professional organizations and institutions and just things overall that have happened in the classical music industry that have created opportunities or that have created the space to advocate for musicians, whether it's through hands-on work experience for up-and-coming musicians like college musicians and freshly graduated musicians, whether it's, advocating for equal and livable wages for musicians and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff that we're excited to share with you. So where would you like to start, Katherine? Would you like to start in education land or in orchestra land?
We'll start in education land. Education land's my jam.
Yeah. Yeah. We're big educators and big advocates for music education here. So, one of the things that I came across, which is awesome because I'm from the state of Florida, which there are a lot of things that come out of the state of Florida that, especially this year. But, I was reading about the University of South Florida, which is in kind of the Tampa area of Florida. And there is a collaboration between the University of South Florida's art school and the Florida Orchestra that is giving the school symphony orchestra musicians mentorships and opportunities to work hands-on with professional conductors from the TFO. It provides them real-world training experience and the ability to understand like what the expectations are in professional orchestras. And their collaboration has also created a lot of opportunities for community engagement and outreach, and giving the TFO an opportunity to invest in the community that supports them. So I thought that was really awesome.
Oh yeah, for sure. Anytime a university can make a partnership with a community organization, especially in the arts, that's a win for everybody. That's a win for the students. That's a win for the orchestra. That's a win for the community. That's a win for the students, especially. So that's huge. That's awesome that those types of partnerships are popping up more and more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when I think of, mentorship programs, having professional and established musicians working with up and coming professional musicians, I think the obvious one that we think of is the New World Symphony with their program that they have. But it's really great to see that there are more programs that are popping up like that because, I remember being in undergrad and the only experience with orchestra that I had was with the ensemble at school. So when I was a master's student and started subbing with a professional orchestra, I felt completely out of my depth because I was like, oh, I'm just this lowly student, even though I was a master's student. And I had no exposure up until then to what it was really like to be in a professional orchestra and to conduct myself in that kind of environment.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as a student, it's especially important to have a lot of different experiences and being exposed to different things outside of the university. I remember the first time I really ever stepped into a classroom and had any type of responsibility was in my last semester of my last year of college. And I was in a music education program. And man, if I had been exposed to the classroom and actually had like hands-on experience in the real world earlier, that would have changed a lot of things for me and would have made the first year of teaching so much easier. So I totally agree. Whether it's being a teacher or being, an orchestral musician, any type of time you can have a real world experience and feel out of your depth, that's going to inform you so much and help you clarify if it is something that you're interested in or not, or what things you didn't know, so that the next time you do it, you are more well informed and can feel better about it and more confident.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I agree. Like they totally should have college, like music ed majors go into schools well before their student teaching. I feel like it's such a culture shock, to be in there for the first time as a student teacher and also as a performer, finding these opportunities, whether it's taking lessons with professional orchestral musicians or seeking out these programs like the New World Symphony has, or, hopefully there are a lot more universities who kind of take notice of what USF has done and say, hey, maybe we can try to strike up some kind of mentorship or partnership with our local professional orchestra. And there are other orchestras, there are a lot of those bigger name orchestras like the Chicago Symphony and the San Francisco Symphony, but there are other orchestras too, like the Baltimore Symphony and the Oregon Symphony, who have really taken steps this year to create initiatives, concert series, and other community programs that have commissioned new works, that they've performed works by emerging composers, and also created opportunities for youth orchestras and mentorship of younger musicians. So like hopefully that trend only continues to grow, heading into 2026.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, not only like, state schools are starting to pop up and do things like these type of collaborations. Oh, and also other good news is that these days, whenever I do talk to my friends who are professors, applied professors at schools of music, they are so much more open to their students double majoring or having a different type of a minor, or they're really really all in to interdisciplinary study, which is something that is new, I think, in a way that was never really done before. Because I know, like back in my day, if you didn't just focus on performance and if you had these other outside interests, it's almost like you had to hide them because you were expected to just be really dedicated to your craft and to your art, which is really important for sure, but also being smart about studying something that will go along with your performance stuff that will help you become a more well-rounded human and more marketable human. So that's another great thing I'm seeing is like almost encouragement of music majors having a secondary path that they're also following at the same time. And beyond state schools, another thing that is super cool is we all know that about the trickle down effect, right? So like, the fanciest, most famous person, if they do it, then it's going to trickle down to the masses, right? So whatever perfume Taylor Swift is wearing these days, 90% of high schoolers and middle schoolers will be wearing it within a month or two. So the trickle down effect. So it's really also good news to see that places like Juilliard, Manus, and Yale are really leaning into the entrepreneurship curriculum for their students. They're actually finally saying, oh, we recognize that this is a problem, that there's not enough like already in place opportunities for our graduates. So they're going to have to learn how to do something different. And so, Juilliard has an entrepreneurship symposium that they have every year where they have people who are out in the world come in and deliver these awesome sessions with current students. There's partnerships that take place. And at Manus, there's interdisciplinary studies with a real world focus that is happening that helps students take their music from just the practice room and inside the bubble of the School of Music and actually figure out a way to make it impactful in their community. And by the way, since I'm a learning nerd, there's this way of learning and thinking and designing called design thinking. And this is actually, Natalie, what you and I have done for years already without even knowing it had a label. But it's basically where you're finding a problem that exists in the world and you're creating a solution for it. And it's very, very, very human centered, which is what all of our work is that we do with our clients. But it's really cool to see that these conservatories are starting to use this way of learning and breaking down problems so that when you ask music students questions like, what does your audience want? They can actually think through that and find solutions in order to make their music viable and applicable and helpful and inspiring to others and use it instead of just learning music because you like it, actually learning and thinking through a way to provide solutions and impact to people.
Totally. And I think that's so awesome. As classical musicians, it's easy to feel a little bit like a one trick pony where it's like, I can play my instrument super well, but then what do I do with that? So that's like the design thinking that you were explaining, and seeing that a lot of universities, especially the big schools and institutions that a lot of people look up to for these for music degrees, are taking ownership of, okay, we need to find ways to supplement and complement your music education, because as much as we would love knowing our instrument to be enough to build a successful career, it's just not the way that the world is right now. So I think that's awesome that we're seeing like a shift. And I know like there are even universities like Florida State University has like a career center, but specifically for music majors, where they seek out these kind of resources of, okay, what kind of gaps can we fill? It's kind of like an institutional design thinking of, all right, how are we going to fill these gaps? What courses can we add? What experts can we bring in so that these students feel more confident and more well-rounded in their experience and their education, and once they have that degree in their hand.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And yeah, the fact that the places that, everyone looks up to and tries to model are doing this, and they are saying, like, yeah, y'all, like, even our graduates are not getting employment, like, we have to do something. I think that shows a lot, and it shows a lot of forward motion in our industry for it to finally evolve into something that will create viability for folks who do want to pursue music professionally.
Yeah, I think it was in like the last episode of the podcast that I was sharing like my experience of specifically of financial education, where it was like, yeah, we didn't there that didn't really exist in my degree and in my education. And so that was a huge gap. So to be able to have like those things like finance or entrepreneurship and all that goes into that, I think it would be so great if there were, a lot of entrepreneurship like track or geared programs in college will have like some kind of semester where you have to build a product. You have to identify an issue or a need in a specific market, and then create a product or service that fills that need, and how to market it and advertise it and get it to the people who need that. I think musicians could totally benefit from doing that too, because it's more than just, oh, like how can I deliver this like perfect performance? It's like, well, it doesn't matter how perfect the performance is if you're not connecting with anyone, if you're not in front of an audience who can really value and appreciate and see the worth in what you have to offer and all that good stuff. So I think that's totally awesome.
Yeah, I think so too. So it's finally evolving.
Yes. Yeah. And one of the other things that we saw kind of, it's in the education space, but there's like the Memphis Composers Institute. Back in February, there was a collaboration between the Memphis Symphony Orchestra, the University of Memphis, and the Walden School. And it was basically the symposium to give emerging composers the opportunity to experience like having their works performed, to give panel discussions about like the background of themselves and their work, and to experience like being in there with like professional orchestras rehearsing their music and bringing it to life. And I was looking through the list of the winners for this year who had their works performed, and the winners were really like, they were focused on self and just general identity as humans, cultural traditions, and also representing their own life experiences through their music and through like the works that they have performed. So it was really interesting that they all kind of hit these ideas, but in totally different ways. So if you're interested in hearing some new music and want to check out the works that were performed by the Memphis Composers Institute, then I'll share a link so that you can kind of do a deep dive on your own and see what those are like.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Again, creating opportunities for other people to, show off what they can do and to also learn from each other too. I think that's super amazing.
And it's inspiring too. Like I said, I know at least for me, a lot of the news that I hear in classical music land is like, oh, this orchestra is getting cut, or
Yeah.
these musicians are on strike, and these are all like things that are really important that need to be heard and need to be talked about in order for change to happen. But when you're only hearing that and not like, hey, there are also good things that are happening and people are trying to fight the good fight and there is some progress being made, it's easy to be like, what's even the point of being a musician, if it's all
Yeah.
just like doom and gloom all the time. So
Right.
it was definitely a pick me up when I was trying to see, well, what really has happened in the music world this year that isn't so like dreary and pessimistic. And
Yeah.
so it's been really great to see like all of these things that are happening that, it's easy for it to fly under your personal radar if you're not actively seeking these things out.
Yeah, for sure. What
Mhm.
about orchestras? What other things have been going on with orchestras?
Yeah, there have been some exciting things with orchestras. Kind of going back to the Florida Orchestra, the Florida Orchestra has been pretty busy this year. And earlier this year, they announced that they ratified a new 4-year labor contract for the musicians. And apparently, like the agreement was reached like ahead of schedule too, which is also really
Wow.
nice. And just from their media release about it all, it says that the agreement with the Florida Orchestra will grow total musician compensation by 23% through salary increases and other benefits over the life of the contract, reduce health insurance costs, increase paid parental leave, update the audition and tenure process, and adjust workload and scheduling parameters. And I was like, okay, let's see what like the specifics of this all, and some of these things that I thought it was really important to highlight is that there's now extra paid leave for women who give birth. There's increased paid religious holidays, and there's the promise of future expansion of titled positions such as associate principal, etc. And just interesting to know that the TFO actually has the most titled positions of any orchestra of its size in the US. So they currently have 34 titled musicians, which is half of their current orchestra.
Wow. That is
And
cool.
yeah, and these titles also bring increased pay, which is like, hey,
Yeah.
that's great. Because I mean, when you hear a lot of the discourse on orchestral musicians and salary, like just this year, the National Symphony Orchestra musicians went on strike, right,
Mhm.
to advocate for better pay rather than having reduced or pay increases that really don't amount to much. So to see an orchestra being very transparent on what they're giving and to their musicians because they see the value of what they're doing and they're bringing to the table in these organizations has been great. And then the last thing that I wanted to point out, just because I thought it was really interesting, was that this new agreement, this contract includes updates on hurricane preparedness and also workplace violence and harassment prevention,
Wow.
which, like, that's always, been a hot topic in
Right.
the classical music industry. So to have like something in place that it's like, hey, we recognize that this is a very real issue. And rather than waiting for this to happen, we're going to start implementing things to hopefully prevent us from ever being part of that statistic.
Right. Yeah. No, that's huge. And unfortunately, like, duh, that should be in there from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that it is being recognized and updated, I feel like that is huge, and the fact that they even have that in a contract is also amazing. I know many places don't. So, yeah, that is really good news.
Yeah, there's been a lot this year, a lot of articles and things that have brought a lot of abuse and just inappropriate workplace behavior up into light. And so to see an orchestra like being proactive about those things rather than saying like, oh, what do you mean this stuff never happens, or these are just misunderstandings, like, no, these are real issues. And like to see musicians being protected or to see protections being put in place is really encouraging, because I don't think we hear enough of this kind of thing happening.
Right, right, yep. And the fact that it is starting to happen is very encouraging.
Yes, definitely. And then something I thought would be interesting to share, since it's in our backyard. Catherine and I are in North Georgia, and there is a professional orchestra here, the Johns Creek Symphony Orchestra, pretty much in our backyard. And when I was looking for feel good news, they popped up, and I was like, like that's us. That's in our area. So I definitely wanted to share that. They were selected to join a national consortium that is designed to ensure that full-length works by women and non-binary composers will be commissioned and also receive multiple performances nationwide. And, their project will include collaborations with the composer Angel Lamb for a 2026-2027 season performance of her work. And this is through the Virginia B. Tallman Foundation Orchestral Commissions Program in partnership with the American Composers Orchestra. And I'm going to be honest and say that until I was looking for feel good news, I didn't know that any of these organizations existed, like the orchestra, the commissions program, and the American Composers Orchestra. So it was just like, oh my gosh, like that's amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing. And it's great that, this is an example of people who are doing that work. And it's hard work, being an advocate and making things go is a hard job. And the fact that they're being successful with their work and bringing all of these opportunities to everyone is really inspiring and really appreciated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I know when I was in school, I was kind of afraid of performing like new music, and I don't know, maybe if I have a therapy session, I could dive into why that was. But I don't know, I was always afraid that I wouldn't do it justice. And like knowing that the composer is alive and wanting to really just give the music what it deserves and what it requires. I think it's different when you're performing like Bach and Beethoven, because they're not here to give you feedback or to give commentary about how their works should be done. Like we have scholars who do that, and we learn that in our music curricula. But to have like real living composers and see the face, see the human behind the music that they're creating, like I think there's a special kind of responsibility to make sure that we're honoring this music. So I think it's great that there are organizations that are dedicated to commissioning new works, and especially works by composers who are very much underrepresented in our industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely moving in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And then I think that it would be cool for us to talk about our own personal good news about things that have gone well for us this year, things that, we appreciate. So what do you feel like has gone well for you this year through all the ups and downs?
Yeah, a lot of big downs. And I mean, there have been a lot of great things that have happened this year. I've had my own personal challenges, but first off, this podcast was like just like my little brainchild a year ago. And we launched at the beginning of January and have been able to keep it alive and running. And I feel very fortunate to be able to connect with more people out in the greater music industry aside from my own little bubble through this podcast, like being able to share my own experiences and learn more about what it means to be a classical musician in this day and age, and to talk with others who are professionals in their own right, but also have very, very different journeys and backgrounds and stories to tell. So I've really loved just being able to connect with new people and hear their experiences and see that like the stuff that I talk about is actually being received. It's not only that it's being heard, but also that it's starting conversations that I didn't used to have with other people. So I take that as a huge win of just feeling more connected in my community, both my local music community and also the music community that exists on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that's definitely been a big one for me. How about you, Catherine?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's been lots of great things that have happened this year. And I think that, yeah, like I've loved supporting you through this process and seeing you thrive and broaden the community and having these conversations. So I think that that's been a big highlight because I know what it's like to start something from scratch and to go through the growing pains that come all with that. So that's been a big plus, is to be part of this project with you and to be able to cheer you on and support you as you have this new endeavor to, continue with our little company's goal of informing musicians and connecting them and having these conversations and providing these resources. So that's been really awesome. Another win for me is I survived my first 15 months of motherhood, which is like, yes, which is huge because as like an older new mom, who has done nothing but work and study since all the many years before baby, it was hard to go, from make the shift from only identifying as this classical musician who helps other people and is an educator, to, oh yeah, there's this tiny human who also requires a lot of effort and energy. So I feel like I've made it out through the other side and have at least figured out some way to balance both things. Not really balance ever, but at least, feel good about being a mom and entrepreneur and musician. Yeah, I feel I'm really happy with my studio right now. It's nice and small. 12 students, love every single one of them. And I feel like that I have found a new sense of confidence as a teacher in myself, and to know that I do actually know what I'm talking about. And it took a long time to get there, but I do feel confident, more confident in that aspect of my life, more so than I ever have, I think.
Mhm.
So those have been really awesome things that have happened this year, as well as just continuing to meet folks and continuing either online or in person and to network and help others and to be, a source of wisdom, if you will, and being thrilled to support people in times that are tricky, and be able to help pave that road for them so it's a little bit smoother. So that's always a highlight of every year.
Yeah, totally. I think honestly, after the year we've both have, we deserve a medal for surviving.
I know.
all the things, all the challenges and things. And so to be able to take time to like express gratitude, I haven't been in that space 100% of this year where it's like, I don't want to be grateful for these challenges. I don't want to be grateful that I'm having to deal with these things. But, it is definitely, a pendulum. It swings where we're
Oh, yeah.
in these periods where it's like, okay, I am in that space to appreciate and recognize like the things that are there that are, supporting me, or that I'm like, I'm not totally terrible at this, and like seeing you like deal with, motherhood and like finding that balance, because a lot of what we talk about with our clients is like finding that balance, and seeing you just like being able to push forward and to find new solutions to the same old question of like, how do we find balance between our personal and work lives? It's been really inspiring to see you do that, and it's definitely helped me keep going when I feel like, what am I doing? Like this day is the test pancake. I just got to throw it away and start fresh tomorrow.
Yeah, the first pancake's always a little weird, isn't it? Same thing in life. Yeah. Yeah. Anytime you try it, anything is going to be a little weird, but then you get better as you go. And that's the key, is just to keep going and keep learning and keep being okay with not knowing everything the first time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually had a student yesterday. She's in the 6th grade, and she played through her warm up. And the first time it was like not the greatest. And she acknowledged like, this is not how I know I need to play it. And then she like, we repeated it a couple of times, and each time it got better and better. And she was like, Miss Simper, I'm really sorry for that first one, because that was not, I know it should not have sounded like that. And I'm like, that's okay. The first one is the test pancake. And she was like, what do you mean? And I was like, like if you or your family make pancakes and that first one is always like a random color or it's not the right size. And she's like, oh yeah, I watch my mom when she makes those pancakes. And I'm like, I look at that first one and think, yeah, I'm definitely not going to be eating that one.
That's funny. That's funny.
So, yeah. I think another thing that I have been grateful for that's kind of setting me up to be really excited for the year 2026 is that I am going to be traveling a lot next year, actually within the next couple of months. And as a person who's always like, oh, like I'll travel later, I'll take that vacation later, or now it's just not a good time. Like I always put those things on the back burner. And now I was finally like, you know what? I deserve to travel. I deserve to go visit that friend. I've kind of like given myself permission to do these things that I've been pushing off until the right time, which there's never really a right time or the one best time to do things. So I've finally like stepped off the train of, oh, we'll just do this later, or I'll, eventually I'll travel, eventually I'll do this. So I'm really excited to be traveling with friends, traveling to see friends, and like experiencing new places that I've never been before. So after the year 2025, that's the one thing that I'm like, all right, even if 2026 is as challenging as this year, at least I have these things that will make it better.
Yes, your little sparks, your little fun vacations, escapes, however you want to think about it. Yes, and I always I sometimes whenever I travel, I dread traveling because I like the packing, and then you have to reschedule stuff. But then I'm always grateful and thankful every time that I do get away. Be like, oh, I really needed this. So that's going to be great. That's going to be great to have some adventures.
Yeah, we Alex and I recently like had a family photo shoot, but with our dogs, because we don't have any kids and they're like our kids. So I was like, all right, like let's do this. And that's another one of those things that I'm like, oh, we'll do it later. We'll do it later. And then we did it. I just got the pictures back last night and they are hilarious. They were like, yeah, I'll have to show you. Like Teef is catching treats and he like, I don't know, at the position he assumes before he jumps is like kind of looks like a toad or something. It's so funny. And then Chewy is like, he did twirls and stuff. So he looks like super athletic and like built, even though he's this tiny little dog. And that was another thing that I was like, I'm so glad we did this. Like, why have I been waiting for so long? Like, I could have had this enjoyment sooner. So I think that's the message that I'm going to take with myself into 2026 is like, I'm going to find ways to enjoy the things that I've been putting off for whatever reason, and see like, how can I structure my life, or how can I plan and factor that into what I do every day, so that instead of it just being always this like long, far away goal, that it is something that can be very real, tangible, and provide like meaning and just fulfillment in my life. So I hope, as a listener, that you can also do the same. I know like we usually get like the busyness from the gig season, and then the high from the holidays of feeling like grateful, like, and spending time with family, if that's your thing or your chosen family. And then post like the holiday season, it's like, okay, there's like this slump of, all right, now what? Like, how do we move forward from this? Because everything was just so different than it usually is. So I hope that you can take some time to reflect and decide, like, what are those things that you've been putting off that may not be important to everybody, but are most definitely important to you, and how can you make that happen, even if it's not this year, but at least working just to get a little bit closer to it this next year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about the holidays, when it does finally slow down a little bit. It's like, okay, what's next? And getting excited about like looking out and planning the next year. I've already got my list down of things I need to go ahead and start thinking about. So I'm excited to just sit and think for a while.
For sure. Well, I know that we've got some exciting things coming up in Creative Land to help support musicians like you who are just trying to find out what a meaningful and sustainable music career looks like for you. And that's something that we're both working on every single day for ourselves. And we love being able to help you and others like you to do the same. So I hope that you've enjoyed this second season of the Limitless Musician podcast. We've got a really exciting season 3 coming up in the spring with more guests, more knowledge, and more experiences, more ways to connect with other musicians who are just trying to make it, and more than make it, but just actually enjoy the life that they're creating. So thank you so much for joining us along for the ride this year and for this season. And look out for our announcement of when season 3 is coming out on the Limitless Musician page on Instagram. And if you want to check out what Katherine is doing, you can follow her on Instagram at Katherine Emeneth. And there's a lot of E's in her name. So we'll be sure to add those links for that, and some of the good, wholesome news that we talked about in today's episode. We'll include those in the show notes description. All right. Well, take care. Happy New Year. Happy end of gig season, hopefully soon. And we'll see you on the next season. Bye.
Bye.
That's all for today's episode on The Limitless Musician. If you liked this episode, follow us on Instagram at The Limitless Musician to tell us what you want to hear next. Remember to subscribe to our newsletter to get exclusive content that won't show up anywhere else by clicking the link in the show notes. Until next time.